Hello and welcome to Top 5 Nintendo, where we give you top 5 lists for all things Nintendo. My name's Jake and I am your host today, and I'm here with our co-host Sam. Every other week, we're going to be switching who's hosting and co-hosting. For this first episode, it's going to be me hosting. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited for the first episode. I have lots of ideas. I like to share lots of opinions on these consoles that I grew up playing and are still playing.
Awesome. We're all here for the same reason. So this has been our first time face to face without masks through this pandemic. We've both been vaccinated. And I'm excited. It's cool to be hanging out with people. And if my communication's a little out of whack, that's the reason. But we're gonna try to fight through this. We'll be about 45 minutes to an hour, maybe. And I wanted to start off this first episode by going through our history of Nintendo consoles.
Let's do it.
All right. Since I'm hosting, I'll go first, and then you get the last word.
Let's hear it.
That seems fair. So I guess my first Nintendo console was the GameCube. I guess I played the Nintendo 64 at my cousin's house before that, but I guess the first one I owned was the GameCube. And I remember going to like Toys R Us and GameStop and playing those like demos. They had the system set up in the stores, and I would be sitting there for an hour until my mom kicked me out. Just playing those demos, and I knew I wanted a GameCube, so I guess for one of my birthdays, my mom got me the GameCube. I got Spyro. I remember as the first game, which was so random, and I think my mom just randomly picked it off the shelf, but it was a super cool game. Um, and after that, I guess my next Nintendo console must have been the Wii. And I guess this is just talking about consoles, but prior to this with handhelds, I shared a Game Boy with like my brother and sister. Car rides, we'd be handing them off every 20 minutes. And then I don't know if it was after the GameCube or before, but I had the original Nintendo DS and then the DSi at some point after that. But anyway, next console I had was the Wii. Obviously a beautiful console. Got it for Hanukkah, as most people probably did for Hanukkah or Christmas. It was like the holiday gift. But, Wii Sports Classic. I was pretty much a normie at that point in like middle school playing Call of Duty on the Wii. Everyone's making fun of me because I'm playing Call of Duty on the Wii. I like had no introduction to Mario really at that point except like a Game Boy game. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have been playing Galaxy. But I really did not know much about video games, and none of my friends really had a Wii. Everyone's playing Xbox and PlayStation. So I was by myself. But it was cool. There's a lot of good things on the Wii. And finally, we came to the Switch, which is the best console ever made. You could fight me on that. Gladly. But yeah, I think that's everything I've owned. So how about you, Sam?
That's a fantastic list. I had a similar path. Not a console, but my first Nintendo system was probably the Game Boy Color. I had that when I was like super young. I don't even know how young I must have been, but it was probably around 4, and I would play I'd play like Kid Icarus and Link's Awakening and the first gen Pokemon games. Like not able to read. You didn't have to read for some of those games. Link's Awakening, yes, but
I remember that being a struggle. Like
yeah.
having to have my parents come into the living room every once in a while.
Mhm.
Like, can you read this?
Oh yeah, I had a neighbor who was he was in high school, but he was homeschooled, so he was like my friend, even though he was like 10 years older or something, and he loves Pokemon and I loved Pokemon, so he would like tell me what to do in the games. So I was able to beat some of these Nintendo games at 4, and then I got the Game Boy Advance when that came out, and I played, what would be the Super Nintendo ports. So I, got it was Super Mario World. I played that. I played Yoshi's Island, Gen 3 Pokemon games, and I think it was probably around when I was 5 that I got my first proper Nintendo console. My uncle, I think it was for my birthday, maybe. He loves to go to yard sales. So there was a yard sale, and I guess a family was getting rid of all their Nintendo 64s. I don't know how he got his hands on three Nintendo 64s, but he just knew that it was something kids loved. So he got these three N64s for cheap, gave them to me with a whole thing of games. It had some silly games. It had Miss Pac-Man, the one Wave Runner game. It had Pokemon Stadium
Awesome.
2,
Classics.
classics, Pokemon Snap. Um, yeah, so and the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. So that is I played that for years. I remember I wasn't able to like hook it up to my TV right. Like my parents didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do it. So like some games I played entirely without sound. Some games I had to play in like black and white
Yeah.
because the AV cables or whatever.
Right.
So I had this really weird experience of like, not knowing how some games sound like. Like I feel like Banjo Kazooie. I definitely remember the color of that. The music might have been missing, but it was great. I didn't know how to use the controller at all. Um, and then I graduated to the GameCube around when Melee came out. Um, and and then we is when I kind of started to fall out of the Nintendo consoles, just because I was kind of a snob and I needed the HD graphics.
Right.
Wii U, I got that pretty much just for Smash 4, and I loved Smash 4. But I wasn't really feeling that console as much, and then I
Yeah.
got the Switch, and that's been my journey. I've,
Awesome.
with a couple like DSs, like I would get the new DS or every other
Right.
DS when it came out. But I've pretty much stuck with it since I was able to hook up a console.
Awesome. And I remember like speaking about the N64 issues, I mean like just the idea of blowing into a cartridge, it's like
Mm,
forever embedded.
done that so many times.
Yeah. But it's so funny to think about nowadays. Like and like even I feel like I still do that with like chargers and some things when they don't work, and then you realize like it's not really I don't think that's how it works. I don't know how it
Muscle
works.
memory.
Yeah, exactly. And I've definitely like been made fun of like for like why are you blowing up?
It's how I was raised.
Nintendo, baby. That's
I
why.
know, because sometimes it works, apparently.
Yeah. But that's wild that you play games without audio because like audio is such a huge part of Nintendo games.
And black and white.
Yeah.
I played Kirby and the Crystal Shard, black and white, I'm pretty sure, which is also such a colorful game. And that was like one of my favorite childhood games. I didn't know how to fix it. I mean, like, no, my mom didn't know how to hook up a
Right.
64, so I would and it's probably like the TV. I used like a super old, like very boxy TV too, just
Yeah.
because like,
Right.
what was I gonna do? Go buy a new TV
Yeah.
like age 5?
Valid.
Yeah,
At the age of 5.
yeah, right.
Let's go to Kmart, buy a TV. I remember also, speaking of, like, adapting to consoles, like, when we got the GameCube, like I mentioned, I was young, and it was for my birthday, and, like, my parents knew nothing about video games. They like, we didn't know we needed a memory card, and I was too young to, like,
Mm.
understand the concept of, like, this is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be saving, and I'm supposed to be progressing through this game. Um I think I had the PS1 and we never had a game card for
Right,
that, like a memory
right.
card for that. But eventually we like realized we needed that for the GameCube. And I guess I was like old enough to realize like when you're a kid and you're just mindlessly playing
It
video.
doesn't matter.
It
You're not.
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
playing the same thing every day.
Right, right.
But yeah, we got that eventually. And I remember that was a game changer with like you mentioned like Tony Hawk, like I had all
Mm-hmm.
the Tony Hawk games.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can like actually play them. Although I remember having my cousin over and like beating all of it for me because I was still a kid and I
Because it's
couldn't
kind
do
of a
it.
short game.
Yeah,
The Pro Skaters, at least Pro Skater 2 is short.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
you do need to save to progress.
Yeah, that definitely changed it up.
Yeah, I had that same whole memory card learning curve thing. Maybe just a tad earlier because I remember Banjo Kazooie. I was too young. I didn't know how to save that.
Right.
The Pro Skaters did not know how to save this. I played at the beginning of Pro Skater so many times, and I was also
Yeah.
like so young, like I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like I just needed the one level, it was like the warehouse level, maybe
Right.
Pro
Right.
Skater 3. I forget which one that was. Um, And oh yeah, and like my PS2, like I wasn't saving that. Like I didn't know. But
Right.
by the time I got to the GameCube, I was like, I need my melee characters saved. I'm not going to,
That's what did it.
yeah, I'm not
Oh my
gonna
god.
get Luigi and then lose him. Like, that mattered to me. But I was, for the Game Boy Color, also I was too young where I don't even think I was making enough progress in the games
Right.
where like
Yeah,
I
it didn't
needed this
matter.
saved. Yeah, like what? That didn't like click in my head that that was like part of enjoying the game.
Right. Well, I think also like so on the PlayStation, like this isn't Nintendo, but on the PlayStation One, I had like you know I think DreamWorks or Pixar, like Ants, the movie.
Oh yeah, I think it's DreamWorks,
Yeah. So I had like that on the PlayStation,
of
and
course.
I was obsessed with it and played it like every day. And I thought it was like I thought I didn't. Video games were new. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was young. I thought it was a game you had to beat in one sitting. So like it would never even cross my mind that a PlayStation would need a memory card. And again, like that's something that's so crazy today. It's like I guess the Switch still has SD cards, but a little different. It's you put it in the system. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
hanging out, and it's not like you don't need four of them. But
Right.
yeah, crazy stuff. We've come a long way. Hopefully, the new Nintendo Switch will be announced sometime soon. Hopefully this summer.
Fingers crossed.
And we'll get and it will outdate things that were on the Wii and this current
Mm-hmm.
Switch. But it's cool. It's very cool to look back and see how far we've come. And we're both like relatively young, I guess.
Sure. I like to think.
I like to I do forget you got a few years on me.
I think that's why I started with the N64 and
Yeah,
maybe like you played
yeah.
the N64 but like you remember the
I started on the
GameCube as the
GameCube.
first one. It was just that slight generation
Yeah,
behind.
right.
Hmm.
All right. I guess so. I wanted to discuss like what we're excited for. You've touched on Pokemon, like Pokemon Snap. They're
All
remaking
the
that.
Pokemon games,
Yeah.
the Legend of Arceus, Arceus, the new Pokemon Snap game looks so good. And then the remakes,
Yeah.
all three of
Yeah.
those. I'm
So I grew up with like I mean I did Leaf Green first, but like my first DS Pokemon was Diamond, which like we've
sure,
talked about this a lot.
sure.
So I'm excited for that remake and you know some people aren't excited about the graphics and it doesn't look like they changed a whole lot of actual gameplay, which I guess we'll see if they did or not.
Hmm.
But I'm excited. I think I'm gonna buy it if it's. I'm assuming it's gonna be a full price game, $60.
Oh,
Like I'll
definitely.
pay $60 for a remake,
Hmm.
especially if it's the only Pokemon we're supposed to be getting in 2021, and then 22 is Arceus, or it might be 1 year, it might be 22 and 23.
I'm
I don't
sure they'll
remember.
space it out because that's generally how they do things. I feel like we get like a Pokemon game like maybe once a fall, or they'll maybe do every other fall. So I'm looking forward to.
Right, right. And then hopefully getting some new Metroid news soon. And then so Nintendo's supposed to be at E3 this summer. Hopefully they talk about Metroid and hopefully they talk about Breath of the Wild 2, which Breath of the Wild, the original one is like one of my favorite games.
Amazing
So
game.
I still have yet to play it on master mode, but I'm excited to get back to it when I get around to it. But speaking of which, like what are you playing right now?
Right now I'm playing the Link's Awakening remake for the first time. I was playing a little bit of Mega Man 2 for the
Cool,
first
cool.
time. Just it was like my I've never played Mega Man before, so I was just trying it out. Really liked it. A little bit of the Mario 3D World. Haven't gotten to Bowser's Fury yet, but I'm excited to because I don't know anything about what it's going to be like, so I'm
Yeah,
excited to try that.
cool.
What about you?
It's quick too. Bowser's
Oh,
Fury. I think
I
I think
love
it's just
quick
a few
games.
hours. Yeah. I've been playing All Stars, which sadly no longer exists on the eShop. Rip Mario. Just kidding. I'm not feeding into that. That's so ridiculous. I like how Nintendo didn't even acknowledge it. There's
I didn't know that was even like a thing. Like I bought it. Like I'm glad I got it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then someone told me like, "Oh, they're going to stop selling them."
right. Yeah, I like was on the edge of buying it, and then they're like, "We're this is gonna be it." So I just bought it. I think it was on sale, also like $10 off or something.
Nice.
But so I mean, we've been discussing it. 64, I think it like Mario 64 is such a fantastic game. I love that you could go into a painting, level thing, and you could find the stars in any order you want. which is a little of what I did not like about Sunshine. It felt very linear and repetitive. Um, and I've played, I don't know, maybe the first half of it. I'll come back to it. But I wanted to try out Galaxy, and I am loving it so far. I'm playing like a few hours every night. Like I'm like really trying to find time to play this game because it is fun. Like it's a joy to play.
Sure.
Um, Besides that, I've been playing some Fortnite like online. You know, Nintendo does not offer much online, so it's
Hmm.
cool to be able to play against people. Like I know Fortnite, nobody likes it, but I don't. You know, they just updated it, and I don't like it either. So I've been playing a lot less of it.
Hmm.
Apex just came to the Switch. I've been playing a little of that, but I like that less than Fortnite. I think it has like too many Call of Duty vibes, and you
Oh,
know,
really? I've hardly touched Fortnite. I just played enough to know that I could tell people I don't like it that much.
right?
Apex, I was like, oh, great, like
Another
another
one.
battle royale
Yeah,
game. Like, no, I'm not going to also like give that a shot if I'm not gonna be into it.
right. I gave it a shot.
Fair,
It's
which is
alright.
fair.
It's alright. You know, I play maybe like an hour once a week. I don't think I'll be playing it much longer. But besides that, I'm playing A Link to the Past. Oh, I forgot to mention, I just bought the 2DS from your friend Will, which obviously you know about that. But I was able to pick up Ocarina of Time from the GameStop in Center City.
Amazing.
We're in Philadelphia, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that, but Center City GameStop. It was such a nostalgia trip to be in there. It's been years
Hmm.
since I've been in a GameStop, and I felt like a kid looking through those games.
Yes. Well, I love GameStops. I mean, I hope that they're able to stay open. I know that like discs are going away, but like I
Right.
have so many memories going to GameStop.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up Ocarina pretty cheap, but I'm actually playing A Link to the Past on what do you call it? The
The
emulator,
virtual console.
the virtual
Hmm.
console. There you go. Yeah. And that has been a blast and much longer than I expected and much more difficult than I expected. It's
Wow.
like you get to the dungeon and they're fun dungeons, but you like I love a top-down Zelda, but if you die, you go back to the beginning of the dungeon. It doesn't matter if it's the boss fight or what. Like, so I'll be getting to the ends of dungeons like consistently and then dying immediately against the boss and having to do like pretty much the whole
Mm,
dungeon again and then dying again and I'm doing that like 7 times over
mm.
for each dungeon, which is a little annoying, but I think the rest of it is unique and engaging enough to like have me keep coming back to it. So I think I've been playing that as much as or a little bit more than Galaxy.
And you're not a save state guy, right? So you would never use the like go back 8 frames
Oh,
before you die.
I did not even enable it because I knew
Wow.
I would want to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even enabled. I was what? So I was playing like The Legend of Zelda on the Switch
Mm-hmm.
Virtual Console, and that I was doing it a lot. But that game I just wanted to play it. I wanted to understand it.
And the combat's hard. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you got to give
Hmm.
yourself a break. If you have the
It's
option.
frustrating.
Yeah.
You gotta play that game how it wants you to play it.
Mm-hmm.
It's especially with like they only have the D-pad, so it's like four directional instead of eight directional.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets tricky, but yeah, I have it disabled on Link to the Past, and it's been fun but difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay, top five consoles. Let's get
Let's
into
do
it.
it.
Um, so again, I'll start, and then you'll have the last word, and then So we each have our own top five, and then at the end, we're going to compile it and I guess do a little debating and get an official top five list um, between the two. So, okay, my number five, I might have, oh, I think I switched the order around actually. So,
Mm.
I originally had, I'll just go, okay, my number five is the Wii.
Okay.
The Wii is, as I mentioned, like the holiday gift when it came out.
Absolutely.
It blew numbers away. Like it was the best selling, maybe I don't know the exact numbers.
I think it was the best selling
Yeah.
though.
Okay. It was the
Many
best
yeah.
selling. I know after it came out for like, you know, maybe a year after, every single month, it was still the best selling console.
Incredible.
Um, it came with Wii Sports. We didn't even have to buy it.
Mhm.
It came with like one of the best games on
Which
the Wii.
everyone loved. Everyone
Yeah.
loved Wii Sports.
Wii Sports tennis against, my brother and sister, even my dad sometimes.
People breaking their TVs with Wii
Um,
Sport tennis.
my parents always made sure we had the straps on. But yeah, that was a weird time when people were just throwing Wii remotes through their
Well, I
TVs.
think the original releases did they have oh, you know what it was? They always had straps, but they started releasing those like grip things
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
people from throwing them at TVs so you can hold it better.
Yeah, I think you might be right though. I think originally they didn't have the straps with it
Oh, yeah, okay.
for however long. And then
Right.
I think it was sold separately,
Mhm.
and then they had to start including it. Um, you know, which they did something similar with the NES originally, but
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'll, I'll talk about it when we get to it.
Let's hear it.
But uh, backwards compatible with the GameCube, which was an amazing
Finally.
console. Yeah, finally. Why not? Why wouldn't you do it? It
Mhm.
just makes sense. Um, and it's another one of those things that's crazy to think about now, but it was the first console that came with a wireless controller. Like it was, I mean, it's a
Mhm.
given because it's the Wii.
Right.
But when you think about it that way, like that's kind of crazy. Like Sony and Microsoft are still selling wired controllers while Nintendo's like years ahead
Right, right.
saying, "What are you doing with wires?"
Right, and it's not like a novelty, it's like this is like how to play it. Like the
Right.
intended style is
Exactly.
wireless.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean that's crazy because now it's a standard, and that just time after time Nintendo is creating standards in the industry, and that's why I love it so much. Um, it had internet access and Netflix access, so it was like we had the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was like quote unquote an entertainment system, but this really was like you
Mhm.
you could watch Netflix. You didn't need cable. You didn't need this or that. You could just plug in your Wii and you're good. Like that's all you need with your TV, which was like super cool. We also had like the Me channel where you could create your own Mii's. Where like I don't know about you, but like I would have friends over and they'd be like, I want to make a Wii. I want to make a Me. Like go to the Me channel. Like
It was
let
like
me.
its own game, basically.
Yeah, it's like wait, we're not gonna play. I can't even. Because the Mii's were in some of the games, so it's like, oh, we're not gonna play this game that includes Mii's before I even have a character. You're like,
Wii
come on,
Sports, yeah.
okay, yeah, obviously, I
Mhm.
don't know why my brain just, but Wii Sport, yeah, we're not gonna play Wii Sports if I don't even have my own Mii. Come
Mhm.
on, like, what do I look like? Um, it was also like by far the smallest and most portable system of the time. So I don't know if you know this, but who was the president?
Oh, not now.
Okay,
Not
these
now.
names are tricky. Future episodes will be better with names. But so when they were creating the Wii, he said that I want this to like fit on a bookshelf. So I want it to be like
Mhm.
the width and height of like two books side by side, which was like crazy at the time.
It's small.
Even
Yeah.
today, it's smaller than the new Xbox and PlayStation.
Mhm.
So that's like a huge task. But following the GameCube, which was portable, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, portable to an extent. They couldn't go backwards. They had to keep going with it.
Sure.
And then even more so, with the Switch. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Mhm.
But it was like so crazy that they created in what year was it? 2008 or
Maybe 2006 or 2007?
yeah, that they would create something so small and relatively powerful.
Mhm. Mhm.
Super cool. And then obviously, as you mentioned, the best-selling Nintendo
Of
console.
course.
Um, okay, so besides that, like I mentioned I didn't have like Mario experience at the time, so I wasn't buying those games. I was really playing like Call of Duty, like a total Chad. Just on my Wii playing Call of Duty, pointing at the screen, which was okay. Like as much hate as you want to give it, it was cool because you're pointing at this. It's like, it's Duck
It was
Hunt,
crazy,
but
yeah.
yeah, you're not doing that on the Xbox and PlayStation. It's so easy to control. It's
Mhm.
intuitive. It made sense. Besides that, like I honestly can't even tell you what else I was playing on the Wii. 'Cause that's
Yes.
pretty much all I was playing at the
Mhm.
time. That was the age. Um, Wii Sports and that and I guess it was only really Wii Sports when my sister wanted to play, which is like another cool thing about Nintendo. Like my sister wanted to play video games. What the heck?
Even like with you,
Yeah,
like wanting to
even
play the
with
same
me,
games as you.
it brought the family together. I think I've definitely like forced my mom to play like Wii Sports Golf with me or something, which is like super cool.
Hmm.
Because she's never played video games, she never will again, probably.
Sure.
But speaking of Wii Golf, it was actually like a remake of the one that was on like I think it was the NES or Super Nintendo. The golf game they had for that. It was like I learned this today
Okay, let's
doing
hear
my research.
it.
It was actually like they remade all the like the whole courses, like golf courses. So it's pretty much like frame for frame, which is super cool. That they like tip their hat to that. But yeah, I think that's all I really got on the Wii.
um,
So I
yeah.
guess do you want to just you have Wii on your list? Like, do you want to go in order like that, or like if I mention it, you want to talk about it?
So I do not have the Wii on my list.
That makes it easier, I guess.
Makes it easier. So because I do have a couple. You said a lot of positives, and I also have some positives, but I also
Fair enough.
I had some experiences with it where there's some games where if my friend is like, oh, like I got Guitar Hero, let's play it, and it's on the
Mhm.
Wii. I honestly I don't even really want to play it on the Wii.
Hmm.
It's
The lag, yeah.
yeah, the lag, like Guitar Hero, all the Rock Band games. Now I love all those games. Like pretty much every release from those franchises, I'll play. But the Wii, just because I don't think you could plug those controllers in. It was from the Wii remote. You'd plug the Wii remote into the instruments, and
Mhm.
too much lag compared to like the Xbox.
100%.
Um, and then on top of that, it's visually not as nice looking.
Right.
It was the only one of that generation between Xbox and
Mhm.
PS3 to not be HD. Um, which if you're playing Wii Sports, you're playing Wii Resort, and you don't need
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
HD. It doesn't
Yeah, I
make a
guess that's the
difference.
idea.
Yeah, and it still had like the nice aesthetics. So
It definitely had its negatives, and I guess you're right. I didn't discuss the negatives, but I played. That was my console for so many
yeah, I
years.
mean,
I think I had that console longer, like played that longer than any other console I've owned. So I definitely had my negatives. Like it was so annoying sometimes to like even find your pointer on the screen.
mm-hmm.
And then like they made you buy this motion plus thing just so you could like accurately point. Um, it definitely had its issues. And now thinking about it, actually, not only was I playing Call of Duty, which I like obviously don't have on the Switch, but like I was playing FIFA, which I think they have one or two FIFA games on the Switch, but
Probably.
they're not the equivalent of the Xbox and
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation versions. Like they're kind of like demo versions, even though they're like full price or whatever.
Right.
But like it was cool to be able to play the new FIFAs. Like me and my brother play soccer, so we played that a lot on the Wii. And I'm remembering that now. But yeah, between Call of Duty and FIFA, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what other games I was excited about on the Wii. Obviously, Brawl. Um,
Hmm.
I I was following all the updates for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and I would literally check the website every day when the character announce or like a stage announce. And I could like not even sleep. I was in like fifth grade, I think, the
Yeah.
week that it was supposed to release because it even got postponed a month.
Hmm.
Um, which devastated me. Smash Bros. Brawl was like the most important thing I was looking forward to.
Did you have it like pre-ordered?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure I had it pre-ordered. And I was like, so excited to play as like Meta Knight, like King DDD. I think was also announced for that. Um, and then I got it, and I mean, obviously I enjoyed it, but like, um, it was a little bit of a step down from. Well, we'll talk about this when we go into Smash Bros. But I think
Coming
that
off Melee.
yeah, I think some of like the franchises didn't get like the respect on the Wii. It-
Ooh, that's some tough words.
yeah, I don't know, but
But
okay, I'll say one good thing though. The virtual console feature that the Wii had, I was bragging about that to everyone. Like, if someone didn't have a Wii, or someone didn't know about the virtual console, I was like, man, you can get any game on the Wii. Like if you buy
Yeah.
the Wii,
Yeah.
well then you can buy Kirby Crystal Shard. Or you can buy any of the Super Smash Bros. Games. It
Exactly.
is on it. Like it felt like a dream, like really like a child's dream to
Yeah.
be able to access any of these games, especially when you're a middle schooler and you can't just like go to GameStop when you
Right.
want to, you know what I mean? But if your parents give you like $10 of Wii credit, like you can get whatever game you want.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't know how to like emulate on my computer, or I didn't have like friends that could like give me their games.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had the world at my fingertips. It sounds dramatic, but that's literally how I felt in 5th grade with the virtual console.
No, you're totally right. And I mean, that's why all of this, like the Wii was groundbreaking. I couldn't
Hmm
not have it on my list. Obviously, you could, but okay. Well, with that, I guess what's your number five, Sam?
My number 5 is the GameCube. Um,
Ooh, okay.
yeah, the GameCube. It had great games. Like it was the first console that I had that I could read. Like it was there's so many great memories that I had with it. I some games that I really loved were Sunshine, Wind Waker, and Smash Bros. Melee. Um, I just felt like it was the first system that I had where I had these games that I felt like I could like explore these like amazing, colorful worlds in it. Um, 3D was getting up to a point where it didn't feel like maybe as gimmicky, and it had stuff to offer in the 3D worlds. Um, I'll share a fun fact that I learned about the GameCube recently is that it's not actually a cube. It's not a
Yeah.
cube at
Yeah.
all. The dimensions are totally off. It definitely has corners, but the height, width, and the depth are all different. And the handle, everyone loved to talk
Yes.
about how it's like the one console with a handle on it.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like why? So you could carry it? Like why didn't
Exactly.
why didn't the like Wii have a handle? Well, apparently, when they were designing it, they were like, "Oh, this would never work. The NES you can hold with one hand.
Right.
The Super Nintendo you could hold with one hand. All these consoles they're releasing, you can hold with one hand. Kids could carry them with one hand." But then they decided that the cube was too odd of a shape for people to hold with one hand, so they gave it a
Really?
handle.
I didn't know this. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've used that handle. I've
Yeah.
carried my GameCube around.
With
I'm not gonna lie.
If you carry it with one hand, you got to use the hand. Or you might carry it like you're holding a plate and you're a waiter, but that's
If you want to look
if
silly.
you want to look silly, it's nonsense. So yeah, I mean, um, I yeah, it's useful. I think people criticized that when the system came out, is that you had the GameCube competing against the PlayStation 2, competing against the first Xbox, and then both of these games were releasing serious games. Like it was
With like much better graphics as well.
better graphics. The games were serious. There was, Halo
Mhm.
on the Xbox side, and then there was Silent Hill 2, like Metal Gear Solid 2, the Final Fantasy 10, like these
Right.
games for like adults to think about when they play. And then
Right.
there's the GameCube that has a handle and is purple. That has a theme
Yeah.
song every
Well-
time you turn it on, which is a great theme song.
Oh my gosh! Don't get me started.
It's iconic. I'm glad you made that noise because I thought I was gonna have to, and I wasn't gonna stop
Oh,
myself.
It's in my dreams forever. I love it.
It's amazing
Yeah.
sound design.
Actually, I don't know if you knew this, but where's this note? I found out. Okay, if you hold the Z button while the system's starting up, it actually makes like the Pixar lamp when it goes like it's
yes.
those noises. It makes those noises, and then it has like a baby laugh at the end. But if you hold Z with all four controller, and like you'll probably want to look these up after.
Mhm.
And you guys listening, if you didn't know this, like you can find it on YouTube very easily. Maybe I'll tweet it after when we post the episode or something. But if all four controllers hold Z at the same time, it kind of has like a Donkey Kong vibe. It has like a full kind of like song to it. It's
Wow.
definitely look it up. It's super cool.
I have not done that.
Yeah.
I feel like in the back of my head I might have tried the first one.
hmm
Have not done that with four controllers. That is
Yeah.
amazing. I 100% believe it. The sound design of Nintendo is always amazing, and
Yeah.
the proof is in the GameCube jingle.
Right. Yeah. What other console has an Easter egg outside of the games?
I I can't think of any. I mean, I didn't know there was one for the GameCube until now, so I probably don't know of anything else.
Valid,
Um,
valid.
yeah, I guess like another thing that I didn't like. I thought it was kind of cool that the GameCube had small discs. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they were easier to like take in and out as like a kid than
Hmm.
like carrying a whole CD. Um, well, and I also learned this recently is that they did it to save money on their end. Like they didn't want people doing like bootleg
Yeah. Exactly.
CDs, which made sense. Um, I guess people didn't like that. Well, first of all, it can't play DVDs. You
Hmm.
people are like, "Oh, I got a PS2. Like, I'm watching movies on this." Like, that was a big deal for
Right.
people.
Right.
Um, I was like too young to like know about movies that I wanted to watch.
Right. That
Like,
wasn't a consideration, I guess, as a
yeah,
kid.
I was like movies. Oh, like I don't even like know of movies, let alone like have one and want to watch it now. Like
Right.
I just wanted to play video games, so that didn't bother me. Um, Looking back, I can see how other people might have issues with that idea.
Right.
But I'll end it with one high notes is that the controller is amazing on the GameCube. I mean, there's a reason that they're still making that controller, and they're still they had the inputs for the Wii, and then they did the same thing with the Wii U,
Yep.
and I'm pretty sure that they have GameCube Switch controllers, right?
Yeah, they make them.
Yeah, they
They're
make them
compatible with the Switch. And Nintendo knew how good it was when
totally.
they allowed you to plug it into the Wii. So
Yeah.
they knew how good it was.
And I'm pretty sure that it was the first wireless controller too, because they
Yes, I
yeah,
had that
yeah,
note. I had that
yeah.
note. Yeah.
There you go. Great minds think alike. It was a little bit clunkier looking. I personally did not have one. I think my friends had them.
Yeah.
Um, but amazing. Like the perfect controller. It was
Really.
they mastered the
It
ergonomics of
did.
it.
Yeah, it felt great. It was a good one. They
and
nailed it.
and they were ahead of it because the controller had to be evolved when it went 3D, right? When we get to Nintendo 64, I'll talk more about it, but I feel like they knew what they were doing when they came to the GameCube controller.
All right. Well, that's definitely a high note to end it on. So this is where my switcheroo came around. I guess originally, I guess Wii was number 4, and okay, so NES was number 3, but I notched it down one, so now it's number 4. The Nintendo Entertainment System,
Mm,
um, you know, broke so many grounds, created so many
so much to
great
say about
games.
it.
Yeah, Legend of Zelda, Tetris, Metroid, Final Fantasy. We were bringing all these games to the home. You could play all these at home,
Hmm.
and this is coming right off a video game crash where like uh, Americans didn't think video games were going to last much longer. Stores didn't want to hold these consoles; it was taking up shelf space. But Nintendo actually worked around this by saying any NES that you do not sell, we will buy back for you, which is so crazy. Like what?
Daring. There's
I
so
mean,
much confidence in their
yeah,
product.
they knew what they had, and
Hmm.
they put themselves on the line, and it paid off. It really paid off in that era where they own the industry essentially. But and obviously it came out as the Famicom in Japan, which was a very different looking console. And I don't know if you know this, but like obviously, not obviously, I guess, but I don't know if you know this, but the reason for that was that they felt that because of the whole video game crash, Americans didn't want a video game console. They wanted an entertainment system.
Mm.
So it wasn't a family, game console. It was an entertainment system, even though it totally wasn't. Like it was a game
Right.
console.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But they were able to pull it off by adding Rob on the top, which interacted with the video. They advertised it as
Hmm.
it interacted with video games, but it actually only worked with 2 video games, and it usually did not work how
Wow.
it was intended to. But it was the Trojan horse that got the Nintendo Entertainment System into so many houses, and it worked. It was it looked slick. It had so I don't know if you know this, but like the Famicom, have you seen it? Do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, for listeners, it was much more colorful. had the controllers like on the side of it. The game cartridge was on the top or on the
Yeah.
side, but it was sticking out is my point. So on the American version, the NES, they the controllers weren't attached on the sides of the console. That was like kind of immature. It was gray and black. It wasn't like this colorful console. And it had so you put the cartridge inside the console and then closed it kind of like a VHS, you know, tape player. So it really felt like an entertainment system instead of a video game console, which worked. It's exactly what they needed in the US, and it worked. Um, and, obviously this was like essentially the first home video game console that really kicked off. And like I said, broke so many grounds. It really informed the future. They created the D-pad, which is again so crazy. Like
Hmm.
what was life before the D-pad, the Joy-Con? But you know,
But why
how
did we have a
why?
Joy-Con, right? They're 2D games. What are you gonna do with a Joy-Con?
Intuitively, you would think the D-pad would have came first.
Of course.
Like it just makes sense. You move in four directions. Why wouldn't you have a four direction pad?
Hmm.
But Nintendo nailed it. They knew what was up. They created the D-pad. Um, I talked about Rob. The so what I found really cool, which they don't have anymore, and I think would be kind of weird today with the internet. But this was like pre-internet era, so they had a hotline that you could call if you got stuck in a video game. They had Nintendo counselors that you could call
Hmm.
who had to like I read interviews from these guys like they had to memorize so many games. They were before they were hired, they were tested on their game knowledge. They had to go through like hours and hours and hours
Hmm.
of gameplay, and then they were tested on that knowledge. And some counselors were more into some games than others, so they would like, oh hi, you're calling about this really obscure title. Yeah,
Hmm.
Jimmy over there knows all
Yeah.
about it. Like I'm gonna transfer you, which I think is so cool. And you're not getting that nowadays, but that's such like a culture that existed that I think is so cool that I never
Yeah.
experienced. And maybe it sucked back then, and I'm just like glorifying it, but it seems really cool.
No, kids like looked up to that stuff. I
Yeah,
mean, it was their full-time job
yeah,
was to play video games because games were constantly being
hmm,
made. They had to, complete these games like the weekend they came out because all the kids would be calling to ask about them. So, I mean, imagine being a kid then and meeting an adult whose job is playing video games and mastering them. Like that, yeah, exactly. That community was probably very interesting.
exactly. Super cool. And I have a lot more to say on it, but we are actually running a lot later than I thought, which is cool because I didn't know we'd be able to fill an hour, but now we're at 42 minutes, so we're gonna easily fill this hour. I'm
Right.
loving it, but maybe just pick it up a little bit between the two of us. So I also wanted to say this. In the Famicom version in Japan, this was the first save files. They had discs. They sold versions of the Famicom that had discs. And what's really crazy is instead of buying the discs from a local store, you would bring a blank disc to the store, and they would burn it onto your disc. So you
Hmm.
wouldn't have the sleeve with the video game. Like you're not buying the disc. You're not buying the video game. You're buying the disc.
Hmm.
So these are like rare collectibles nowadays where like sometimes you'll buy a Famicom disc and like collectors will buy a Famicom disc and not know what they're buying because there's no indicator.
Amazing.
It's crazy. But so cool, so cool. It's like so DIY. I love it. And probably save Nintendo and consumers money. But they actually created booklets with these games because they realized like nobody wants like a blank disc. So I don't know exactly how it worked. Like it was only in Japan and very limited, but they did have some booklets like with the Legend of Zelda and Mario and things like that. So that's super cool. And I guess that might have been the invention of the game booklet. I don't know. Probably is. But yeah. Also, okay. Last note: Famicom in Japan. Famicom was just so much cooler than the NES. But Famicom had on their second controller had a microphone. So in some games you like had to use the microphone. I don't know where this would have came up in what games, but they mentioned like it was kind of like they had it on the DS. So my point of saying this is like they had all these things that like weren't even they didn't use it back then really, but they were there. Nintendo was coming up with these things and they used them later on, and it really worked. I know like on the Nintendo DS, like when you had to talk, sometimes like I would just blow on the mic. So like just the noises coming through. If it's like, oh, you have to yell for this character to hear you, you just blow on the mic. So like,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna sit in my room like yelling, and my parents come in or like, what are you doing?
Right, right.
But apparently, like that's what you would do on the Famicom, just blow onto the microphone for whatever uses, limited uses. I'm sure it might have had. Okay, that's all I have on the NES.
Amazing.
Number four.
That was some good material. Well, I have a surprise for you. My number four is also the
Yes,
NES.
yes.
We are in agreement. I have some different reasons, but a lot of similarities. Well, I won't
Cool.
say too much of what you already said, but I would like to stress the fact that Nintendo was literally making toys, not video games. They're making
Yeah. Yep.
toys before the NES,
Right.
right? So like when we got the GameCube, well they've
I mean,
been making
they were
consoles.
doing like arcade
Well,
before the
yeah,
NES, but yeah,
yeah, yeah.
definitely like toys was like their main thing. They were just starting to venture into video games.
They were, yeah, exactly. Like um and then they made the NES, which was, saved video games. It was groundbreaking. Not only did they save video games, they started all these franchises
Hmm.
that would be continuing, like Legend of Zelda. We have Breath of the Wild now. Like
Yeah,
they're still making these games and breaking new grounds with them. Um,
I think that's like the craziest part to me is like they all these huge franchises were like all made on the NES. Like
yes,
hell,
yeah.
and there's not really a whole lot of new stuff. I mean, Pikmin. Like there's not really a whole lot of
Mm,
AAA titles coming out of Nintendo
yeah.
since then that aren't these franchises, and that's so cool.
Exactly. Metroid is another good one.
Hmm.
And all those Mario games. And also, well, they were breaking ground for Mario as the NES was progressing. I
Yes,
mean,
the first jump in a
yeah,
video game.
yeah, there you
Literally the
go.
first jump. So crazy.
You got, I mean, look at Super Mario Brothers to Super Mario Brothers 2 to Super Mario Brothers 3. And they were improving the formula as that was going on. Um, so that I really do admire how Nintendo pulled that off. They also just like they saved the integrity of video games with the NES, like that Nintendo approved stamp
Yes,
that
yes,
we
yes.
always see but we don't think about. Well, they did that because that's how they saved video games. Like
Literally.
people were making any game that they
Yeah.
could think of, and anyone would buy it because it was so new. Then Nintendo says, "Well, you know what? On the NES, we're not gonna just accept any game. Like, and
Yep.
that's how you know it's gonna be good." Um,
And that became the standard. Like
yeah,
that's another ground that they broke. Like they
yeah,
created so many standards in the industry with that NES.
exactly. And I mean, I love a good handful of NES games, but there's a couple that I really cannot play. I
Okay.
really I don't think I've aged very well. And to try to imagine a bad game that didn't make the licensing, I really can't imagine like how many unplayable um, games there might have been back then.
Right.
Um,
Is knockout one.
uh,
Yeah, I know that was like so I was reading it was
yeah.
so hard because the developers were playing it so much while they were developing it that they thought it was easier than it actually was.
Wow.
So it ended up being like such a hard game that, like for no reason.
Is
Just
it Knockout or Punch Out?
oh,
Which
Punch
one?
Out. It
Yeah,
might
yeah,
be Punch
Punch
Out. It
Out.
might be Punch Out.
Okay, because I'm trying to think, because I think there was a Punch Out for Super Nintendo, um, and that one I did like. I did
Yeah.
kind of like that one. I forget. I probably didn't like the one on Nintendo then, because I have no memory of it. I probably played it for like 30 minutes and then like stored it away in the back of my head.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah. So, I will say Mega Man 2 is a new one that I've played, and I really like that one. Super Mario Bros. 3, amazing. Dr. Mario, I'm a big fan
Mhm.
of. The only thing holding me back for the NES really is I feel like they were still figuring out a lot of things in terms of, making video games that would have a lasting impression. Um, you know, ice hockey is a great game, but I think they've improved on hockey games. Just things like that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, fair enough.
That's all it is. That's what keeps it at number 4 for me.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a great starting point for Nintendo's consoles.
Hmm.
Um, okay, in honor of keeping things moving because I think we might have spent too much time in the beginning. But this is good news for the future. Like, we're learning from this episode and we're having fun with it.
Sure.
And the future ones will be a little bit cleaner. But so number 5 originally for me was the N64. I had to move it to number 3. I had to. So while we've been creating this show, I've been venturing into older games that I haven't gotten a chance to play with my virtual console, like between the Switch and the 2DS, and then Mario All Stars. So I've been playing a lot of games very recently, and thinking about this after I made my original list, N64 has Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye, Pokemon Stadium, Mario Kart, Mario Party. How is that can't be number 5. I'm sorry. Fantastic. All fantastic games.
Really great games.
Mario Party, the original one, I love it. Some people say it's like boring and repetitive and blah. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. So Mario Party, when it came out, with some of the mini games, you had to move the Joy-Con very quickly with your hands. So people were using their palms, and were apparently some people were hospitalized because of this.
Way.
They were like shredding their palms of their hands up. So Nintendo was sued in America and had to, obviously in America, because where else do people sue for everything?
Yeah.
And so they had to offer gloves, like gaming gloves, with Mario Party.
Amazing.
But most people didn't know about this, so you had to like claim it after you bought the game. So most people don't actually have it or didn't know about it.
It's a great collector's item.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy. But that's America. So it was supposed to be called the Ultra 64, but I don't know how you say this. Konam's whatever. They had Ultra games. So that was copyrighted. So it was too similar to Ultra 64 that they had to change it, which was actually like not the first time Nintendo's rolled into this, because I forget the exact story, but with the original Legend of Zelda, it was supposed to be like something of Hyrule, or I don't remember. I'm gonna stop with this. We don't have time for this. They ran into this issue before with copyrighted names,
I believe it.
but they rolled with it, and the 64 became iconic. With they just wanted to name every game this 64, like just put 64 in the end of every title.
It worked.
It worked. It really worked. At the time, I guess it's a little cringe looking back on it. I guess. You know what? That's really okay.
Hey,
I get, but I will talk about the games really quickly. Ocarina of Time, one of the best games ever made, still to this day. I guess I've never actually, to be fair, played the 64 version. I played the remake on the 3DS. As I mentioned, I just bought it recently. The first time I played it, I borrowed it. It's so good, I had to buy it. I'm definitely gonna play it again, and probably again and again and again. But it's such a good game. Mario 64, such a good game as well. I mentioned, I think it's better than Sunshine because it's non-linear to an extent where like you could go into a level and collect any star in any order you want. And I think that's so cool. And I could keep coming back to these. They were all like fun levels, more or less. I'm definitely going to complete that game at some point, like 100% it. I'll keep coming back to it. And, that's all I guess I have to say on the N64. So, Sam, before you get to your number 3, we are going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Thank you guys so much.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern The Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
1 heist, 6 plots for betrayal. When Raya Cautela cons 5 other thieves into helping her steal a magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world, she knows she's playing with fire. What she doesn't know is that the rest of her crew is just as underhanded as she is, and they all have plans of their own. M.J. Kuhn's Among Thieves, a fantasy heist novel full of twists, turns, and betrayal, available beginning September 7th wherever books are sold. Visit mjkuhn.com for more details.
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it turn by turn.
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's your turn to come and join us.
All right, we are back from the break, and we are getting right into it with Sam's number 3 pick.
So my number 3 pick is the exact same as yours. It
Oh my
is.
God,
I
awesome.
know. It is also the N64.
Cool.
I have it at number 3 for similar reasons to what I said at the beginning, where it was my first console, like I had, it was my first experiences playing these games on the TV. There were so many great games, like playing Banjo-Kazooie and having it feel like this open, like 3D platformer
Right.
that was totally different than like me exploring the Kanto region on Pokemon Red. You know what I mean?
Right.
Great region, great game, but my mind was blown with jumping and the color and like collecting things across the world. I mean, seeing like the Pokemon come to life in 3D in Pokemon Stadium and in Pokemon Snap. It was a big deal, like having that 3D there, and it was the first 3D Nintendo console. That's a big deal. It was the negatives. It was not
Real
the
quick,
first one.
real
Go
quick.
ahead.
Oh, okay. Because they had Star Fox. Is that what you were gonna say?
No, good point. You talking about
Okay.
the Super Nintendo Star Fox?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have played it. I greatly prefer Star Fox 64. That was one of my
Okay.
first 64 games. Good point though.
But
What I- go ahead.
yeah, they like just barely pulled that off. So I was actually to say they were gonna make a second one, but it didn't compare to the PlayStation at all, so they scrapped it. So it's 3D, quote unquote.
Mhm. But what I was gonna say is PlayStation 1 had already been out. Lots of great 3D games were out, and lots of third parties were on Sony's team at this point. So it did have some competition. But like you said, great games. There was the Legend of Zelda games. There was Super Mario 64, the first Smash game,
Yeah.
Pokemon Stadium 2. All those games I loved, and it was a big deal to me to see these in 64.
Definitely.
The controller. Have you talked about the controller? I don't think so.
I didn't even
The
get around to it.
controller looked like an alien.
So
Right.
weird.
I was I was a kid. I don't think I ever like actually figured out, how to work
How to
my
use
way
it.
around,
Yeah.
how to actually use it. It was
I still don't. I'm still like
Yeah.
confused when I pick it up.
yeah, it's like where am I supposed to hold it? And
Yeah.
and I think that their idea was like, oh, it's 3D. You'll have a stick and a
Exactly.
D-pad,
Okay.
and there's so many more dimensions to our games. Now there's gonna be more dimensions to our controllers.
Yeah,
I get
well,
the idea.
a big reason for that was that when they were creating Super Mario 64, which they were creating concurrently with the N64, they kind of figured that they would need that Joy-Con along with the D-pad in order to move the camera around, and it obviously worked out very well in their case.
So yeah, that's all I was gonna say. I mean, the biggest shame is that all these great games were also competing against the likes of Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid, the Final Fantasy games were now on the PlayStation, and then you gotta respect Mario 64. But then there was also like Crash Bandicoot playing
Right.
on the PlayStation.
Good after
So
you.
I feel like this console made big improvements, but they also would have some catching up to do later.
Fair enough. Is that all you have on the?
That's all I got.
Okay. So my number 2 then is the GameCube. Um, so I mean we've discussed this, just talking as friends, but like there's a valid theory that like the console you first played is your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you love a lot of GameCube games.
Sure.
Sunshine, Wind Waker that I don't enjoy as much. Um, and the GameCube like was my first Nintendo console, not really my first console. Um, and like I mentioned, my parents didn't know anything about video games, so I wasn't playing those games. I wasn't playing Mario. I wasn't playing Zelda back then. I was just playing whatever they bought me. So I didn't grow any attachment to those games, but I grew attached to so many other things about the GameCube that maybe it's not the best console in a lot of ways, but I grew very attached to it. That's what I'm trying to get to. So here's some things I either brought, remember growing up or like learned
Spill it.
researching this. Okay. Yeah, I'm talking a lot. So it almost had a DVD player, which I think is so crazy. I'm just gonna start with that. That's insane. We were talking about that.
Right.
It has a smaller disc, so they had to figure out a way to be able to read 2 different types of discs, which is why I guess ultimately they didn't end up doing it. So I wrote that it would have been too expensive for gamers if they included that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Nintendo is all about the gamer experience, so they'd rather have a cheaper console, like a more affordable console, that like any or more gamers could afford than have all these crazy like, oh, you can watch movies like the PlayStation had. But, like, not really necessary, but it's cool. It's a cool added feature. We discussed first wireless controller, insane, like such a groundbreaking moment. Yeah, I feel like I think I'd said most of my notes when you talked about the GameCube.
We discussed it a lot.
Yeah, so I guess I won't go too into it. It almost had a 3D feature like the 3DS. So this is what it's going to. Where like I mentioned earlier that there's so many things that Nintendo comes up with, they just don't have the capacity to like properly utilize it at the time. Like they're so far ahead of themselves. It was almost 3D, but I guess it was too expensive again to include with the console. So they end up using the same technology with the 3DS, which it would have been cool if they had a 3D GameCube, like playing 3D games without glasses on a TV in who knows what year even, the mid 2000s. Like that would have been insane, but it didn't happen. Whatever. It's still a great console. It was okay. So the handle, it was a portable system. You could bring it to your friend's house easily. It's small,
Which
it's
I've
light.
done.
Exactly. I've definitely done it too. It's small and it's light, and it has the handle. Not quite a cube, but it's
Sadly
easily
enough.
easily portable. It also Nintendo is known for having these crazy party like attachments and whatever for consoles. So there's actually like a third party like screen that you could attach to the GameCube, so it's actually portable. So like you attach the screen to the console, and then you could go outside and play your GameCube, which is so cool. I never knew this until like recently, but like that's super cool. It's like an actual portable console. Like talk about the Switch. And then once again, like just things that they had back then that they didn't properly utilize or like weren't able to until now. It's just like really cool. And it had like a battery, like a portable battery if you did that, because you can't plug it into a wall outside. But yeah, okay, so that's pretty much what I have about the GameCube. We talked a lot about it earlier. Let's get to your number 2.
Well, I really thought that we were gonna have the same number 2 pick, and I'm a little disappointed that we don't. I picked the Super Nintendo.
Okay, yeah.
I picked the Super Nintendo, the SNES. Disclaimer: I've never actually played on console the Super Nintendo.
Fair enough.
All right, I've played the Virtual Console for it on Switch, and and then I've played the ports on the Game Boy Advance. I do have one in my room with a couple of great games, but I'm yet to hook it up because those old consoles, you can't hook them up to smart TVs the same way. So I'm still figuring that out. Okay, well, my biggest reason for this being the number 2 pick is that the games were amazing. I think 1994 was the best game, or the best year for video games. We had
Hit me with it.
Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo. We had Super Metroid, and we had Earthbound. All of these games are amazing.
I've honestly never played Earthbound.
Earthbound could have been made yesterday. It is like it is the most modern feeling retro game. And honestly, I could say that about all of these games really. Like the Super Nintendo is something about the sound and the graphics and the mechanics of this era that they hold up. They just hold up. I think there's something inherently great looking about this 16-bit where to my eyes, it feels like art. I think the color palette to Super Metroid is amazing. I could say the same about Earthbound. I feel like Final Fantasy 3 has the craziest, it does have the craziest world building of any game at its time and before it.
Super Metroid, I'm gonna say real quick, like I mentioned, I've been playing some old games on the virtual consoles, and so I played Metroid, like the first one first, and then I played Super Metroid, which you kept encouraging me to play.
Sure.
And the first one was a bit of a chore.
Yes.
I used a lot of walkthroughs.
It is, yeah.
A lot of it was, if you didn't use a walkthrough, which didn't exist back then, you're not beating it. You know? Like it was, I don't know, whatever. Different time of gaming.
Yeah.
But going off of that into Super Metroid, you feel the difference immediately. Like it looks so much better. If the colors are better, the sound's better. I loved it. It was a joy to play.
How you even maneuver your character just feels so clean. The wall jumps are so honest. You know what I mean? Like if you hit the wall jump, you hit it. If you don't, it's your fault. You know?
Right. Mario wall jumps in Mario 64 is a lot easier. they caught the hint after Super Metroid.
Yeah. It is. It's hard to learn. And then there's also, we got Super Mario World. We have Yoshi's Island. Like these games looked great color palettes, great sound, and they're, amazing advances to these franchises. I haven't played Link to the Past. I've seen frames of it and it looks good. I know that you've been enjoying it a lot. I'm gonna chalk it up.
I'm sure you'll get
There we go. There we go. And besides my own personal experience, it sold so well in Japan.
Yeah.
I read it was something like the Japanese government had to ask Nintendo to start selling their consoles on weekends because it was disrupting. It was disrupting the country so much. The fact that everybody was playing the Super Nintendo.
What do you mean? What do you mean by like they had to? Did they not sell it on weekends before that?
It was. I don't know when they released it or how it was released in terms of like what day of the week or whatever. But it was something about like people not like showing up to court and shit like that. Like,
oh my god!
Because
so it was like sold exclusively on weekends. Or it's cool if you don't really know the details. Like that's pretty obscure story. I might look into that.
Something to look into. I mean, I saw it on a YouTube video, and it could be an urban legend, but honestly, I 100% believe it.
That's cool.
What it really was is they got the NES and they just advanced it in every way. I mean, the controller more ergonomic.
Yeah.
It was a little better looking. The console, I mean, it had a little color to it as opposed to like the dusty computer look, and I mean, I just think it was at a time when it was in the lead visually, Nintendo above all the other. Sony wasn't competing yet. It had like Square Phoenix making games for them, among other companies. So yeah, that's just how I feel about my number 2 pick.
That's not on my list because probably most likely because it's the console I have the least experience with. I've played the least games. Console. I've never actually I don't think I've ever even seen the console in person. Like I mentioned, like I've played
Mhm.
the N64 at my cousin's house. Uh, you know what? Actually, like I remember as a kid, my dad had all these like old Nintendo games. So like I don't know where he got them. Like he didn't play them. He didn't have the console. I think they might have been Super Nintendo. If they weren't the Super Nintendo, they were the original NES, which I think would have been crazy. I don't think that's
Mhm.
the case. So it must have been Super Nintendo games. I don't know why he had them, but I remember like always looking at them and like look at the art on the boxes. I can't possibly remember now. Like I was so young, what games they was or anything like that. But yeah, I have like no connection to this console. So
And
A
on
Link
the
to the Past is fantastic so far, but that's
Sure.
all I can really say. Super Metroid, that's all I can really talk about.
Another great one. On the topic of the cartridges themselves, they also made the advancement of letting you just put the game
Yeah.
in the console as opposed of doing this secret ritual where you open things and push things and close things.
Yeah.
That was done with. So just it was really an advancement and they were just so in the head.
Yeah.
When later on GameCube, Wii U, debatable if Nintendo was really in the head, but Super Nintendo they had it.
Cool. I did take. I saw it was on your list. So I did take a couple notes. I don't think you mentioned, but like DK Country was on that. Which was. I mean, I've never played that, but I've only heard good things.
Forgot to include that. A good game for
Yeah.
sure. A good game.
I want to play it eventually. Like I've only heard good things about it. Yoshi's Island was originally rejected by Miyamoto. I don't know the full story. They shoved it through there. It happened. Thank gosh. Another game I haven't played but only heard good things, and
The fondest
I'll get to
memories.
it. I'll get to it.
The aesthetics of that. I don't know how many games have topped it. At the very least in 2D. I mean, if you just look at like what the bushes look like
Yeah,
in
fair
Yoshi's
enough.
Island. Yeah.
Speaking of bushes and the like original Mario games on the NES, I was reading the bushes were the same animations as the cloud, just a different color because like to save memory space.
Sure.
So it's like this, and actually Luigi was like Mario and I don't remember like one other character combined. Like he wasn't an original character. Like they just
Okay.
combined assets to save memory, which like doing all this research, it's so cool the ways that these developers like found ways to save memory, and like create these games that were like really hard to put on. Like some of these games
Yeah.
are really hard to put on the cartridges that they did at the time, like especially like the N64.
Mhm.
I know like with Ocarina of Time on the N64, like you could feel the weight difference of like because it really packed that cartridge compared to
Uh-huh.
like some of the smaller games, and you could like literally feel it, which is like
That's crazy. I
it
didn't
is
know that.
crazy, yeah. But okay, this brings us to I'm sure we share the number one,
Yeah.
without a doubt, the Nintendo Switch Lite. No, I'm just kidding. The Nintendo Switch is the best thing anyone's
Mhm.
done in gaming. I don't care. You could, oh my gosh, so many good games. You could play these games and then you could take them on in the car with you, on the subway, on the plane. PlayStation doesn't have that.
Mm-mm.
Xbox doesn't have that.
Mm-mm.
Don't tell me your consoles are better than Nintendo. Don't look down on me for playing Nintendo when you can't even bring it on the road. Come on. Nothing beats it. Some of the games, Breath of the Wild is everyone gave it a 10 out of 10 or a 5 out of 5 or whatever when it came out.
Deservedly so.
Yeah. What I want is like I'm gonna say one of the best games, but like come on, it's the best game.
Yeah.
Like nothing's gonna beat that for a while, I don't think. Everyone has their opinions or whatever. Smash Bros. Ultimate killed it. It's still killed.
Amazing.
There's still 2 characters that haven't came out. And like it has all the music, has like all the characters you want, all the stages you
All
want.
stages.
It has everything you want in Smash. The only kind of annoying thing was that you had to like earn the characters. Like,
But the
not to be a little
I mean-
snob, but like Mario Kart, like they gave you all the characters. They knew no one wanted to play the single player mode. Smash Bros. They made you put a little hustle into it. Whatever, it's cool.
At least you didn't have to like find out like what mini game you had to beat under a certain amount
Yep.
of time to.
I actually found a glitch where so it's like every so many rounds in single player or whatever, it brings up a new character. So if you defeat that character and then you turn off the console and then you reopen the game, the next match it's gonna bring you a new character, so you don't have to wait like every 3 or every 5 or something. You unlock the new character, turn it off, turn it back on, and then it gives you the next character.
I have totally done that.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I
you
have
knew
done
it.
that.
Okay, there you go. And that's what I think. No one wants to play this. I don't like. I know they created like a whole story mode and whatever. Like there is. I'm like familiar with it, but I don't care. No one really cares. It's a party game.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a top 5 fighters episode, which I'm excited about.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great.
A little side note to our listeners: like this is a game we've played, the two of us and like our friend group multiple times.
We say hurtful things to each other.
Weekly, we were playing weekly.
Weekly, yes, of course.
We would meet up, eat some tacos, and those were easier times.
Yeah.
What else do I have? Okay, I mentioned like I'm playing Fortnite on a Nintendo console. That's kind of cool. Whatever. I'm like geek for playing Fortnite. I don't care. Skyrim, even better. A better example. You're playing Skyrim on the Switch on the go. You're playing Skyrim on the go. No one else offers that.
Skyrim, Dark Souls on the go.
Yeah. Super Mario Odyssey, a fantastic successor to Galaxy. Or 3D. What came out on the Wii U?
So the Wii U had Mario 3D World, but
That was on the Wii. Okay.
3D World it's more of a hybrid between the 2D and the 3D because it's way more linear. So I would.
Okay. Well, Odyssey is a fantastic game. Animal Crossing. Beginning of this pandemic, if you didn't have Animal Crossing, what are you doing
You
with
were
your
a
life?
fool. You weren't doing anything with your life if you didn't have Animal
For real.
Crossing.
I had it. I've since sold it. I played a little too much too quickly, and I got kind of tired of it. Well, we were playing Stardew Valley, the two of us,
Right.
and a couple friends, and I thought Stardew Valley was better than Animal Crossing.
I would agree.
So, yeah, I definitely have some more notes, but it outsold the Xbox One and the PS4 without a doubt. Like these are still sold out to this day, but especially in the beginning of the pandemic, like you cannot find this thing. I mean, even today, you can't really find. It's hard to find a Switch.
Right.
That around the holidays, my stepmom was trying to buy one to play like the boxing or whatever, I don't know, like the fitness games, and she there's the sales and all the bundles, and she couldn't. Like I remember every single day, like she was like, oh, like Walmart just told me they have one, and then I went to the website and it was gone by the time I clicked it immediately and it was already gone. Like you can't find these consoles, which makes me a little worried about the Switch, like whatever, the Switch 2 or whatever you want to call it, the Switch Pro, whatever it's going to be. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to get my hands on it, even if I want it.
It's going to be difficult.
And especially coming off a pandemic, which makes me think they might push it back a little bit just to be able to be a little more prepared, which I wouldn't be too upset. Like that's understandable.
I'm still enjoying the Switch. I don't feel like it's dated at all.
It doesn't feel dated. Exactly. Well put. When the Switch came out, Breath of the Wild had I mentioned this to you, but a greater than 100% attach rate. Like more people had this game than had the Switch. That's insane. And I don't know if that's like people who couldn't get their hands on the Switch yet and bought the game preemptively, or bought like the limited edition copy that they didn't want to open and then bought the normal copy. But that's insane. Games don't do that.
It is.
Like even like a 75% would be insane. To have over 100%. Like what are you doing?
Everyone is getting this game because it's that good.
For real. Crazy. I'm gonna say this wrong. These Japanese names are really difficult sometimes.
And I won't be able to help you.
Koizumi. I think
that sounds good.
Okay. He compared the Switch to a pack of cards, playing cards, where cards make you interact with the people you're playing with, and you have eye contact with the people you're playing with. And so a lot of games that are coming out on the Switch have like multiplayer features and really involve that like group dynamic to the games where like you're discussing strategy with your partner, and you're not just playing like a split screen shooter like you are on the PlayStation or Xbox or something. You're actively playing a game with someone, and that's a really cool thing to have in this day and age. So I wanted to mention that. 4 years in, still selling out. A negative, I could keep going on about the positives. A negative is like the Joy-Con drift on the specifically on the left. I got I bought my Switch used, and I don't know if you remember, but a few months in, I had to borrow one of your Joy-Cons because mine had the dreaded drift. But Nintendo nailed this by offering free repairs. You just mail it to them, and listeners, if you didn't know this, listen up. You can send your Joy-Con to Nintendo. They'll fix it for free. I think you pay like a few bucks in shipping, and they'll do it unlimited times. No matter, I bought my Switch used. It wasn't even a new console. They don't care. I just send them the Joy-Con and they fix it. I'm sure you have stuff to say, so I'll let you get to it.
And my number one pick would also be the Switch.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I honestly believe it is the best console that's been made. That's how it is. The mobility. I don't even know if you talked about the mobility, but
a little bit. You can bring it on trains and cars and blah.
Yeah, exactly. It's genius. It's obviously genius.
Yeah.
And I mean that was what Nintendo had. Like they had the 3DS, they had the handheld market down. Sony tried, Sony failed, and then they consolidated into a console, a mobile console. Like everyone loves that. They made the Switch Lite. It was a genius move. And I also feel like Nintendo had this thing where they knew the graphics weren't quite up to par with their competitors, but they had, great stylish games to go with it. Well, I feel like the Switch was I think we're just about at the point where the style is so charming, so lovable that we're not going to be thinking about, but does Breath of the Wild look exactly as good as Witcher 3 does on PS4? Like that's not an argument anymore.
I think some people still.
Some people might. I
for some people it's an issue. I agree though, but for me, I don't really care. You don't seem to care.
I don't care. I think that the Nintendo style is really amazing. It's really colorful. It has this like charming cartoon feel without feeling cheap. And the games just look great.
I will say on that like Age of Calamity did have some speed issues where like if there is too many people coming at you, like it did slow down a little bit, and then it kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit.
Sure.
But like a game like you said, like The Witcher 3, I couldn't believe that game is on the Switch when I was playing it. Like coming off the Breath of the Wild and then playing The Witcher 3, like I could not believe like how great everything looked. I mean, even in Breath of the Wild, if you're standing on top of a mountain, you see a sunset, it's
unbelievable,
beautiful. Sometimes I'll just stand and look at the sights, like amazing.
Just go on your glider and just experience the world. And then another thing that Nintendo was doing was the fun controls, the intuitive controls. Like you were saying, one of your family members who don't play video games, they wanted to play the fitness one. Well, it's genius. I mean, there are people like to gamers, a standard controller was what feels intuitive, right? But to your mom who doesn't play video games, like she wants to swing her fist to punch, right? That's what's intuitive. And you can still do that stuff on the Switch for certain games. But there's also grounded controls. Yeah. Like they're not expecting you to swing your fist to play Smash Bros. Ultimate. Right.
And I like that like a lot of games will give you the option.
You have the option. And I think they did a great job with that. It's fun and it's intuitive for both parties. It's great. Another thing that I loved is that we really didn't talk about the Wii U at all.
Yeah, I don't want to.
So I mean, there's not much reason to, but I'll have it tie into my number one pick. Here's the thing: the Wii U was probably misunderstood. Obviously, marketed probably incorrectly. Not enough people bought it. It did have some good games on it. I mean, Breath of the Wild was made for Wii U. Mario Kart. Well, yeah, okay. It was on the Wii U. It was on the Wii U. Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U.
Wind Waker remake.
Pikmin 3. I mean, I could keep talking. These games were then made for the Switch, and then they were given a new audience. Also, I mean, so the Switch. Okay, well, I'll go back to the Switch for a second. The Virtual Console is amazing. Those streaming all of those games is really so much fun that you can just cycle through all of them.
And it's a subscription, so
It's a
you're
subscription.
not worrying about like paying for the games you want to play, because now you could pay the same price and play games maybe you wouldn't have played otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Like some people maybe wouldn't want to pay, I don't know, $4 to play ice hockey if they, but now
Right.
you have no excuse, and I think
Yeah.
that's amazing. Really, just if you want to like get more into a little bit of the Nintendo history and just cycle through all these games, like that's what I did.
Yep.
I had like quarantine last summer. I played about half of them. Like
Oh
I
my
really,
gosh.
and it was a blast, and I got to do it with a subscription fee and it streamed fine. I didn't have any problems streaming it at all. Yeah, I will say though that I'm really looking forward to an expansion to the Virtual Console. I haven't had much stick drift problems, so I can't complain
Okay.
for that. But I will say that the Wii U has Game Boy Advance games on the Virtual Console.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yeah.
It's got
Right.
GameCube games. It has Nintendo 64 games. It has so many games on its Virtual Console, and I think we're still waiting for that.
They said they're not bringing the Game Boy.
Not bringing the Game Boy.
So some. Yeah, alright, I'm not going to speak on what I don't exactly remember, but they said that the Game Boy wouldn't look good, wouldn't be worth it.
Okay.
So they're not spending their time on that.
There's maybe a couple games that I think stand out on the GameCube. Like I would like to try the first English Fire Emblem game, which is a Game Boy Advance game.
Didn't they stop selling that?
Did they stop selling it?
I think they offered it and then they stopped selling it.
Which is a shame. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm looking forward to having a Switch console that has a more expansive Virtual Console, but I can't complain much because
Yeah.
what we have already is pretty good. And
Can complain about the online, which is
The online-
non-existent.
I
pretty much.
don't really use the online. Just
Yeah.
I
Which is like a given with Nintendo, I guess.
Yeah, I don't expect it really. I maybe tried doing online with Smash Ultimate, and I remember it being obviously better than maybe the Wii U or the Wii's online.
Right.
But yeah, I let them go on that. I don't really expect too much from
Right.
it. And with that, that's my thoughts on the Switch.
Okay. Well, awesome. So we have our two separate lists of top fives. So I guess now is when we really get to the nitty gritty and come up with an official top five list.
Let's figure it out.
Okay. Well, top down. Let's go top down.
Let's do it.
We could obviously start with the Switch. My number 2 is the GameCube. Remind me, what was your number 2?
My number 2 was the Super Nintendo, and I had
Okay.
GameCube at 5.
Okay. So this is what next time let's come prepared with like I like that we're discussing it live, but I could have come up with like a negotiation strategy
Sure.
coming into this. So that's what we'll do next time. But for now you get to listen to us work through this. So Switch is number 1.
Agreed.
Um,
We have Nintendo 64
Yeah.
agreed at 3,
Oh, I just didn't move it on this one. So 3 and 1 is done.
and Nintendo, the first console we have agreed on at 4.
What
NES.
We did have the same 3 and 4. So that
Halfway
it's
there.
just 2 yeah. That makes it easy. So GameCube is where we get in a kerfuffle.
Well, we at least both have it in our top 5s.
Yeah. So what if we moved 64 and NES up one slot each, and then GameCube at number 4? You're down with that?
I could be down with that.
Okay. I could get behind it because a lot of the GameCube was really nostalgia for me, and I don't know if I could actually say it held up as a console. I don't know if I would want to play a GameCube today, but I could definitely play a 64 today.
Sure.
And actually, I was reading that the NES lasted longer than any console in history. About a decade, they were still selling them.
Right.
Yeah. So fair. Okay, this is fair. So number 5 is between the Wii and Super Nintendo. I think the Wii was so revolutionary, it would be silly not to have it on the top 5 list.
There are 2 really good arguments for both of them. I think the Super Nintendo is the gamer's console, and the Wii is the everyone's console.
Everyone's console, yeah.
So I will cry later, but I can agree with Wii being at 5
Yes,
just
yes.
for the impact. I mean, it really was a massive impact Nintendo had on the entire world. Pretty much
Really,
everybody.
yeah.
So I'll feel okay saying that.
Well, folks, you heard it here. Number 1, Switch. Number 2, N64. Number 3, NES. Number 4, GameCube. Number 5, Wii. There's the top 5 list.
Thank you guys so much for listening to our first podcast. It's been so much fun. I cannot wait to keep going. If you liked what you heard, there should be another episode or 2 up right now that you could listen to that we plan on releasing concurrently with this first episode. If you want to keep in touch with us, feel free to shoot us a tweet or follow us on Twitter. That's Top 5 Nintendo on Twitter, the number 5, not spelled out, Top 5 Nintendo. You could also shoot us an email, top5nintendopod@gmail.com. Also the number 5, not spelled out, Top 5 Nintendo Pod. We cannot wait to keep going with this and see what happens. It's been so much fun. Thanks, guys. Until next time. Bye.
Peace out.